she said. Age is just a number. Then she showed me what experience means. I shouldn't remember the way her hand lingered when she passed me the glass of wine, but I do. It wasn't intentional. At least, I keep telling myself that. Maybe she just moved slower than most people. Maybe she was just careful, deliberate, in a way women my age never were. But that pause, the faint brush of her fingers against mine, lit something in me I couldn't name. She was nothing like the girls I knew. Her voice carried years. It didn't rush. When she laughed, it was lower, textured, the kind of sound that fills a room without asking permission. And when she looked at me, really looked, it wasn't the glance over I was used to. She didn't scan me like I was a checklist. Her eyes stayed. Too long. Long enough that I had to glance away first. I met her at a small gathering, the kind where the music was low and the lighting made shadows seem softer than they were. I hadn't planned to stay. But she was there, sitting at the edge of the couch, legs crossed, a half-smile playing at her lips like she knew something I didn't. And God, I wanted to know. When I finally spoke to her, my words tripped over themselves. I asked her something ordinary, about the wine, about the music, but it didn't matter. She tilted her head, studying me as if she was measuring the weight of my voice, the nervousness I was trying too hard to hide. "You're not used to talking to women like me, are you?" she said. The question landed sharper than I expected. I laughed too quickly, shook my head. "Is it that obvious?" Her smile widened, but her eyes softened. A little. Silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable, just thick. The kind that makes you aware of your own breathing, of the glass sweating in your hand, of how close your knee is to brushing hers. I couldn't stop staring at her. She wasn't young, not like the people I usually found myself around. There were faint lines near her eyes, the kind that only come from years of laughter, years of living. And instead of making her look older, they made her radiant. Real. Grounded. Like time had kissed her instead of stolen from her. When I asked her age, carelessly, too blunt, she didn't flinch. She only leaned in, her voice low enough that I felt it more than heard it. "Age," she said, "is just a number." And then she touched my wrist. Not my hand, not my shoulder, my wrist, right where the pulse runs hot. A touch so light it should have meant nothing, yet it set everything inside me off balance. I tried to cover it with words. Too many words. I asked where she worked, what she read, if she lived nearby. My sentences spilled over each other, quick and uneven. She didn't answer all of them. Some she let hang in the air. She sipped her wine, tilted her head, and let silence do the talking. And somehow, her quiet spoke louder than anything I could say. I kept glancing at her mouth. At the way she pressed her lips together before smiling again. She caught me staring. Didn't look away. That was the moment, when her eyes locked on mine and refused to let go, that I realized I'd already stepped somewhere I couldn't step back from. I found myself looking for her more than I should have. The night of the gathering blurred after she left, but the memory of her didn't. I replayed it, her hand on my wrist, her voice slipping under my skin, as if repeating it could explain why I still felt her days later. When I saw her again, it wasn't planned. I had wandered into the little cafe near campus, the one with weak coffee but comfortable chairs, and she was there, reading, glasses low on her nose, a cardigan draped over her shoulders. She noticed me before I was ready. "You again," she said, closing her book but marking the page with care. "Do you always haunt places like this?" "Only when I get lucky," I answered, half joking, half not. Her smile flickered, but her eyes stayed steady. "Careful with lines like that. You might start sounding like you mean them." I sat across from her before I could think better of it. She asked about my classes, and I gave her the usual, overloaded, underpaid, trying to figure out where I was headed. She listened without interrupting, which unnerved me more than any sharp question could. Most people fill silence with their own noise, but she let me talk until I tripped over myself, then tilted her head like she'd seen through everything I wasn't saying. "What about you?" I asked, desperate to shift the spotlight. Her paws stretched. She tapped her finger against her mug, then finally said, "I was married. A long time. That ended. Now it's just me." I waited, but she didn't add more. Just sipped her coffee and looked past me toward the window, like the details belonged to another lifetime. "Do you ever get lonely?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes cut back to mine, sharper now, but not unkind. "Everyone does," she said. Then, quieter. "But not everyone admits it." Something settled heavy in my chest. I wanted to ask more, but her silence warned me off. We stayed in that strange balance, my words filling space, hers arriving sparingly, each one waited. And beneath it all, that undercurrent I couldn't shake. When she leaned over the table to adjust her bag, her shoulder brushed mine. Not enough to mean anything. Not enough to call it out. But I felt the warmth of it long after. I caught myself staring again, at the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, at the crease at the corner of her mouth when she half smiled. And I knew I shouldn't. Knew how it must look, me, 22, still fumbling through life, her, mid-40s, composed in ways I couldn't begin to match. It wasn't just the age. It was the unspoken rules. Friends would talk. People would notice. They'd call it a mistake, maybe worse. She must have felt it too, because every time she leaned in, she pulled back. When her hand nearly touched mine on the table, she curled it around her mug instead. When our knees brushed under the table, she shifted. But the air between us only grew heavier. At one point, she laughed at something I said, a real laugh, sudden and bright, and as she leaned closer, her breath brushed against my cheek. I froze. The room went too quiet. My heart hit too fast. Her laughter faded, but she didn't move away right away. I swallowed, words caught in my throat. "You make it hard to think straight," I said, softer than I meant to. Her eyes searched mine. For a second, I thought she might actually answer. Instead, she touched my hand. Just once, a fleeting press of her fingers against my knuckles. It was nothing. It was everything. She pulled back, her smile unreadable. "You're too young to be this serious," she said. But her hand had trembled when she touched me. The third time we met wasn't planned either. It never was. She was leaving the cafe just as I was walking in. I should have let her go, should have waved and kept moving. But instead I called her name. She turned slow, like she'd been expecting me. "You're starting to make this a habit," she said, pulling her coat tighter. "Maybe I like habits," I answered. Too fast. Too obvious. Her eyes lingered on mine before she looked away. "Careful. Habits are hard to break." We ended up walking together. Just a few blocks, nothing special. The sky was threatening rain, the kind of gray that makes everything look heavier. I carried her bag without asking. She rolled her eyes but didn't stop me. Inside her apartment, I noticed how quiet it was. No music. No TV. Just the faint hum of the radiator and the sound of her slipping out of her coat. "You want tea?" she asked, already heading to the kitchen. I sat, pretending I belonged there, pretending my pulse wasn't racing. Her living room felt lived in but solitary. Stacks of books, a throw blanket draped but rarely used, one wine glass left drying on the counter. No second toothbrush by the sink. No signs of anyone else. She came back with 2 mugs, set one in front of me. When her sleeve brushed my hand, I gripped the cup too tightly. Steam rose between us, but it wasn't the tea making me warm. She noticed. She always noticed. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Tried again. "Because you don't feel like everyone else." Her breath caught, almost too quiet to hear. But she looked away quickly, as if that reaction had betrayed her. We fell into silence, longer this time, charged. Every move felt amplified, the clink of the mug, the way she tucked her hair back, the way my knee bounced because I couldn't sit still. When she finally sat beside me, not across but beside, the space shrank. Our arms almost touched. The air pressed tighter. I turned toward her, and she toward me. For a heartbeat, maybe two, our faces were too close. Her eyes flicked down to my mouth before she caught herself. I leaned in. Just enough. And then, her phone buzzed. She pulled back, flinched like she'd been burned. The spell broke. She reached for the phone, fumbling, avoiding my eyes. A name lit up the screen before she turned it face down. I should. She started, but stopped. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was crowded, with the kiss that almost happened, with the question of who had called, with the guilt that hung between us like smoke. I forced a laugh. Bad timing. Her hand trembled slightly as she set the phone aside. There's never a good timing for this. Still, she didn't move away. If anything, she leaned closer again, as if fighting herself. I could hear her breathing, steady but deliberate. My hand rested on the couch cushion, just inches from hers. I didn't move. Neither did she. We sat like that, too close, too aware, pretending we weren't one wrong glance away from something neither of us could undo. Finally, she whispered, not looking at me. You don't know what you're asking for. I didn't answer. My hand shifted, brushed hers, just once. She didn't pull back. I told myself I wouldn't go back. But I did. It was late, later than it should have been for me to knock on her door. I didn't even know what excuse I was going to give if she asked. But when she opened it, robe wrapped around her, hair loose over her shoulders, the words died in my throat. You shouldn't be here, she said. No anger in her voice, just a quiet certainty. I know, I answered. And yet I didn't move. She hesitated, then stepped aside. I walked in. The door shut softly behind me, too softly, like it wanted to keep secrets. Her apartment was dim, just a single lamp on, shadows stretching across the walls. I stood there, trying not to stare, but my eyes betrayed me, sliding over the curve of her collarbone, the way her robe slipped slightly as she crossed her arms. She caught me. She always caught me. You're making this harder than it already is, she said. Then tell me to go. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Instead, she exhaled, sharp, frustrated, with me, with herself, I couldn't tell. I stepped closer. Close enough to see the faint line between her brows. Close enough that I could feel her warmth. You think I don't know what this is? My voice was low, steadier than I felt. But I do. I can't stop thinking about you. Her laugh came out uneven, brittle. You're just young. That's all this is. A phase. Then why are you shaking? I whispered. Her eyes flashed up at me, wide, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. My hand lifted before I could stop it, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. My fingers lingered at her temple, the softest touch, but she leaned into it, just slightly, just enough. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, it felt like the world stopped breathing with us. I bent closer, my lips almost at her ear. Tell me to stop. Her body trembled, but her mouth stayed shut. The distance between us shrank. Her hand rose, hovered near my chest, not pushing me away, not pulling me in. The scent of her, warm, clean, something faintly floral, wrapped around me until I couldn't think. Do you have any idea what this would mean? She said finally, her voice breaking on the edges. Yes, I said. My forehead nearly touched hers now. It means I won't keep pretending. Her lips were so close I could feel the heat of them, almost brushing mine. I felt her breath catch, quick and shallow, as if she was fighting her own body. Then knocking. Sharp, sudden, splitting the moment in two. We froze. She pulled back an inch, eyes wide, panic flashing. Another knock. A voice outside, muffled but clear. A neighbor calling her name. She pressed a hand to my chest, pushing me back, though not all the way. Her palm lingered there, hot against my shirt. Not now, she whispered, desperate, almost pleading. But her hand didn't drop. My lips hovered a breath away from hers, both of us caught between retreat and surrender. And then she said it, barely audible, but enough to shatter every wall we built. I want you. After the knocking stopped, after the neighbor's footsteps faded down the hall, the silence in her apartment felt dangerous. She still had her hand on my chest. She must have realized, because she snatched it back like the touch had betrayed her. I wanted to say something, anything, but her expression stopped me. Her lips pressed together, her eyes searching the floor as if the right words might appear there. Finally, she whispered, "That was too close." I stepped back, giving her space, though every part of me ached not to. "You don't have to keep pretending you don't want this." Her head snapped up sharp. Don't say it like that." "Like what?" "Like it's simple." She turned away, pacing. Her robe slipped at her shoulder, exposing more skin than she probably meant to, but she didn't fix it. Her hands trembled as she ran them through her hair. I stood frozen, watching her unravel. "You don't get it," she said finally, her back still to me. "People know me. People talk. I can't." She trailed off, shaking her head. "Who cares what they think?" Her laugh came bitter, harsh. "You would if you had to live through it." Something in her tone made me pause. "Live through what?" She didn't answer right away. She turned, arms crossed over her chest, but not from confidence, defense. "My ex. He still calls. He still checks. Half the people in this building know him. If they saw—" She stopped, eyes flicking to me, then away. "It wouldn't just be whispers." The room tilted. Suddenly, this wasn't just about us. It was about someone else still orbiting her life, someone who could tear into what we were barely beginning to admit. I swallowed hard. "So you've been hiding from him?" Her silence was answer enough. I moved closer without meaning to. She tried to step back, but the couch caught her behind the knees, trapping her. Our bodies weren't touching, not yet, but the space between us vibrated. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, softer now. Her throat worked, words caught there. "Because the moment I say it, it becomes real." I reached out, brushing my fingers over her arm. She shivered, not from cold. "You're shaking," I murmured. Her eyes lifted to mine, glassy, vulnerable. "I'm terrified." I wanted to tell her not to be. I wanted to promise things I couldn't. Instead, my hands slid higher, resting just at her shoulder, steadying her even as my own pulse raced. Her breath hitched. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if leaning into me gave her relief she didn't want to admit. When she opened them, the fear was still there, but so was something else. Something that matched the heat clawing inside me. "This can't happen," she said. "Then why do I feel like it already has?" Her lips parted, but she didn't argue. She didn't move away either. The robe slipped further, and I couldn't stop myself from reaching, adjusting it back onto her shoulder. My fingers brushed bare skin. She inhaled sharply, eyes fluttering shut at the contact. "You're going to ruin me," she whispered. "Or save you," I said. For a long second, we just stood there, breath mingling, the truth between us too loud to ignore. Every second we didn't kiss was its own torture. Finally, she stepped sideways, brushing past me toward the window. Her body grazed mine, hips, shoulder, a fleeting line of heat that left me unsteady. She pulled the curtain aside, staring out at the dark street below. "If someone saw you here tonight—" I joined her at the window, standing so close my arm almost brushed hers. "Then let them see." She turned, eyes wide at the boldness in my voice. And I knew, in that instant, that her next choice would change everything. Part 6. No more distance. The window glass reflected us back at ourselves, two figures caught too close, pretending to look at the street but really only watching each other. Her arms folded tight across her chest, but her body leaned ever so slightly toward me, like gravity had already made its decision. I spoke first, my voice low, rough. "You keep pushing me away, but you don't really want me gone." Her head turned slowly. Our faces were only inches apart now. "And you don't know what you're asking for?" "Then tell me." She shook her head. Her lips parted as if she wanted to explain, but no words came. Instead, her hand twitched at her side, like it wanted to reach for me but didn't trust itself. I closed the gap by half a step. Just close enough that I could feel the heat from her skin, the faint brush of her sleeve against mine. Her breath stuttered. "This is wrong. Feels like the only thing that's right," I whispered. For a heartbeat, either of us moved. The air between us was unbearable, thick with everything we hadn't said, hadn't done. Then she reached up, almost violently, and pressed her palm against my jaw. The touch was both tender and desperate, her thumb trembling against my cheekbone. I froze, waiting. My pulse thundered, but I didn't move. Not until she leaned in, until her forehead rested against mine and her whisper slipped out broken. "I can't fight it anymore." That was all it took. My hands found her waist, not pulling, not yet, just holding as though the slightest grip might anchor her. She leaned into me, her body melting against mine as if she'd been holding herself stiff for years and finally let go. Her eyes searched mine, wet, raw. "Do you have any idea what this will cost me?" "Yes," I said. My voice shook. "And I don't care." Her lips hovered a breath from mine. I felt the warmth, the tremble of her restraint, the war raging inside her. The silence cracked with her whisper. "Then don't stop." I kissed her. It wasn't smooth or practiced. It was messy, trembling, the collision of two people who had circled the fire too long. Her hand clutched at my shirt, pulling me closer, while my grip tightened at her waist, terrified she'd vanish if I let go. She broke away first, gasping, eyes wide, as if she just crossed a line she could never retreat from. I searched her face, my own chest heaving. "Tell me you regret it, and I'll walk away right now." Her answer came without hesitation, her voice steady for the first time that night. "I don't." The words landed heavy, final. She touched her forehead to mine again, softer now. "Then there's no more pretending." For the first time, there was clarity in her eyes, not fear, not hesitation, but something raw and undeniable. And in that moment, I understood her fully. We had chosen. The room was quiet again, but not the same quiet as before. This time, it carried a softness, a steadiness that hadn't been there when we first walked in. She was still pressed against me, her head resting against my chest, listening to the rhythm of a heartbeat that hadn't slowed down yet. My arms circled her carefully, as if she might break if I held too tight. For a long while, neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. The air didn't feel heavy anymore, it felt shared. When she finally pulled back, her eyes found mine, searching. Not for doubt, not for fear, just for proof that I was still here. "You realize what this means?" she asked. Her voice was quieter than a whisper. "That I'm not going anywhere," I said. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, more like relief fighting its way through. She lifted a hand to my face, her fingers brushing the corner of my mouth. A tender gesture, almost maternal, almost reverent, but then her touch lingered in a way that was either. "I tried to stop this," she admitted. "Because of the age, because of what people might say. But right now," she shook her head, her thumb grazing my jaw. "Right now, none of it matters." I caught her hand, kissed her knuckles lightly, slow. "Then let's stop giving everyone else a vote." She let out a shaky laugh, and for the first time that night, it wasn't cut short by hesitation. It was warm, full, alive. We sat together on the couch, shoulders pressed close, our fingers finding each other's without effort. The way her hand fit in mine was almost startling, smaller, softer, yet strong enough to keep me rooted. For a moment, she studied our joined hands, her thumb tracing idle circles on my skin. "You make me feel," she trailed off, searching for the word. I leaned closer, kissed the side of her forehead, my lips resting there for a breath longer than necessary. "Seen?" I offered. Her eyes glistened when she met mine. She nodded. "Yes." The simplicity of it sank deep, more intimate than any kiss could have been. We stayed like that, her head leaning against my shoulder, my arm wrapped around her, our hands tangled together, as the night stretched on. Not rushing, not hiding, just existing in the kind of closeness we had both been starving for without admitting it. I knew the doubts would come back tomorrow. The whispers, the complications, the reminders of everything stacked against us. But in that moment, none of it held power. We had chosen each other. And that was enough.